The hits in this album are not love songs. They are not the whoop-de-doo sing-alongs. They are hits. In the same way that America has been a hit, a chart topper, a number one. They are America, and the album is America, as American as country music and the steel guitar. So, this wonderfully weird day for decision, Lloyd Green and his steel guitar. This is Lloyd Green's debut album on Little Darlin Records. It's actually just the second album in his catalog. It's a very bizarre little record, and seeing as it's 4th of July and the 250th centennial this week, what better time to briefly talk about this obscure piece of country music and steel guitar history. And it's a record that is mildly collectible in 2026. And I'll try to give you a few good reasons here today in this video why you might want to have it in your collection and your 4th of July playlist. The year was 1966. The title track on this album, Day for Decision, was actually a spoken word, a sort of patriotic spoken word track by an artist called Johnny C. And it's kind of like a right-wing, anti-communist, pro-Vietnam response to the protest songs of the era. It did reach top 15 country and top 40 Billboard. So, sensing blood in the water, perhaps, Aubrey Mayhew rushed Lloyd Green into RCA Studios to record a quick cash-in instrumental album built around this hot button theme. And so it makes for a pretty strange steel guitar debut for Lloyd Green on the label. I kind of think of this album in the way that I think of like exploitation films in the 70s and like cheap Italian budget horror films and westerns, as like in contrast to Hollywood big budget major motion pictures. That's kind of how this record kind of feels. In fact, what's lovable about this stuff is that it's a bit trashy, it's very campy, and it is the opposite of a Nashville sound record. The Little Darlin Records, Starday Records, and a lot of this stuff kind of was given a new life during the run of the Cocaine and Rhinestones podcasts that were done by Tyler Mahan Co. back in the mid-2010s now. They were quite a while back. And that brought a lot of renewed attention to albums like this.
If you hear a Little Darlin record, you're going to hear a lot of steel normally. And so all he did was cut the bottom end off and made it more compressed and added a lot of highs to what was left and more reverb. And that was Little Darlin sound. What he told me, he said, these things aren't mixed for turntables. He said, these are mixed so when you're driving along on the radio listening and suddenly a Little Darlin record comes out, it'll grab you right by the throat.
It did too.
And you'll know it's a Little Darlin. And that was his theory. And those kind of things were not what Owen Bradley and Chet Atkins and the other producers were about. They were trying to get away from that primitive kind of element. But there was also a magical quality about what we were doing on the Little Darlin because they were experimental and we were adventurous and anything went. I could play anything without question.
The album features Roy Huskey Jr. on bass, recorded at RCA Studio B, in fact, June 18th, 1966. It was produced by Aubrey Mayhew, Billy Sanford on lead guitar, Jerry Reed as well on lead guitar, Glenn Davis on drum, Jerry Whitehurst on the harpsichord, and Jerry Shook on rhythm guitar. Lloyd Green is playing a showbutt, of course. It is the first album featuring the completely new electric harpsichord. The album is compiled of battle hymns, marching songs, very little country music, in fact, but there are definitely some country moments, some sweet chicken picking and twangy steel guitar. But it's a very odd song selection, indeed. The album had a total of 6 variations across the US and Canada. I think there was one Canadian release. This one here that I have is the original mono release. It has the black labels. It's a beautiful tip-on sleeve, and it's got very bright, bold colors, as you can see. The album is still in the original shrink, but sometimes on these vintage albums, I don't know if the original shrink helps it or makes it harder to look at. I say we take it off right now, and I think we can kind of shine this record up and get it looking a lot better. And we can save this hype sticker. Look how much better it looks already. Because you see the shrink, it takes on an aged look and it gets dirt under it. I think it's gonna look a lot better. So you can see it's just really quite a beautiful looking album. This is so classic, so vintage. This is so nice to see after all the AI images. And we're gonna put this right here actually. And I think that's kind of the best place for that. As you can hear, it's a very dated, very corny kind of a sound. Not something I've heard much of outside of this record, I will say, which makes it a kind of a bit of a exotica type album to me in a way. It's very different. Over on Discogs, we can see 148 people listing they have this album in their collection, and actually 90 people looking for it. Now, if you think about that, that's actually quite a bit for a country album. Usually, we're used to seeing numbers like 300 people have the record and 5 people are looking for it. Whenever you see numbers like this, it means that the album is actually somewhat collectible, but you can still find a copy between $5 and $15 for the most part. It's not something I think you're really going to find at thrift shops or even in record stores, but you can certainly find a copy online. It's the kind of album that you're not really truthfully buying as much for the music as you are just for the novelty of it. I think it makes for a really great talking piece. There's a lot of things about it, as you've heard, that are unique and interesting. And you'll never hear another Lloyd Green album like it, that's for sure. And Lloyd has many records out. Like, he has a very large catalog of studio records that he made. But it's an album that fits in nicely alongside albums like Herb Alpert's Whipped Cream and Satan is Real. It kind of fits in right there with records that, if you're a record collector, just kind of a record you might want to have in your collection. It's a fun album, and not that easy of a record to find, as I say. Like a lot of the Little Darlin stuff, people kind of bought it up now, and people own it. So hunting it down will be part of the fun, perhaps, in finding this record. This is America the Tall, America the Mighty, America the Proud. It is the America that we were once unashamed to salute, for which we used to not be afraid to profess love and allegiance. This is the self-same America. The mountains and valleys, the fields and rivers are the same. Only the people are different. Only we are changed. And because we are changed, this is America the tired, America the lethargic, and America faced with a
day for decision.
These are the words of Tom McKinty from Cashbox Records. This is an album that tells a story, not in words, but in music. It's a story of a proud past, a shaky present, and an uncertain future. It's a story told by Lloyd Green, country steel guitarist of the First Order. So that's about all I can. That's about all I have for you on this record. There's not a whole lot else to say, but I do hope you'll consider this on the 4th of July, and maybe pick up a copy if you ever see one in your travels. It's a fun piece of steel guitar history and a very interesting selection from the Lloyd Green catalog. Okay, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think of Little Darlin Records, Lloyd Green, and Day for Decision from 1966.